Hey everyone, this is Chris Solomon from Board Game Breakdown, back with another video for you. And today we are talking about Maquis, which is a solo only game, sort of like a worker placement. It's got workers that you place, but if you watch the video, you'll see that there's slightly different mechanics that go along with it. It's really thematic, especially for being such a tiny footprint of a game. You basically are playing as resistance, French resistance fighters, placing them out, trying to do some missions and stay away from the Nazi sympathizers and possibly even Nazi soldiers themselves, depending on what's going on. So you got this little board, you've got some buildings and stuff that you go to take actions. There's a whole plethora of different mission cards that you use. So there's just a handful of them, but they've got some really interesting and thematic missions trying to get resources like explosives to different places, or maybe you have to meet up with someone to get intel and then turn that intel in somewhere else to trade it for maybe a weapon that you're going to use to assassinate somebody. There's a lot of these additional little rooms that you can spend and place out on the board like that to give you some more actions, kind of change up what you're attempting to do. And like I said, it's solo, so the enemy combatants are being controlled by a really slick 10 card deck here, easy to keep up with. Setup, gameplay, everything takes about 20 minutes. Again, you can see how small the footprint is. It's very easy to travel with. It's just been a really fun game so far. So before we go further, please make sure to check out our website at boardgamebreakdown.com. We have a text version of this review up there. We also have a lot of other reviews and links to our videos. We're also an affiliate of Amazon, part of their partnership program. So if you find anything on Amazon that you, or on our website that you want to purchase, you can click the Amazon link there. Won't add any price to you. You'll still get it through the Amazon website, but it helps us get a small commission to keep making these videos, keep the website running, everything like that. Make sure to hit subscribe on the YouTube channel so you can be up to date on all of our new videos that we're putting out. And we are on Instagram at board.game.breakdown. So check us out there. I've put some chapters in the description down below. So if you want to fast forward and jump to any certain sections, we're going to have a setup section, and then we're going to have a rules kind of gameplay explanation. And then at the very end, you can jump to that section and see us play a couple days worth. I think we're going to go to day 3 or 4 of the first little mission that we can work through. So with that, let's get started with Maquis. So the setup for Maquis is very simple. I went ahead and took out most of the pieces, and we'll quickly go over what they are, how you set up for the game. You can see that it takes up a very small footprint, which is great, especially as a solo game. You could take it, say if you went on an airplane, you could probably get away with playing this on the little table that folds down if you don't mind holding a few pieces or cards in your hand or in your lap. So it doesn't take up much space. I really like that about this. But so let's get started. So first, let's talk about these pieces out here. So you'll see I separated them. You've got some white pieces. These are your actual Maquis resistance workers. You've got the blue here, which are the Nazi sympathizers. I believe they're pronounced the Milice, but I'm not exactly sure if that's right, so I'm going to just call them the sympathizers. You have some red Nazi soldiers, and then you have these yellow action cubes. So once you get the pieces out and separated, what you're going to do is you're going to, let's start with your workers. you're going to take your 3 of them and you're going to put them here on this space, which is your safe house. At the beginning of the game, you only have this one safe house. So 3 of them are going to go there, and 2 of them are going to go hang out close to this cafe. You'll see this is where you're going to be able to recruit more workers. So you have these 2 guys that are able to be recruited at some point if you want to in the game, but they're just going to sit there. You also have this 1 white cube, and you can place it up here in the day tracker. So this is going to count down basically your 15 days you have to complete the missions, or you lose. Next, we've got the Maquis. So for right now, I'm going to leave them in a little pile here because depending on where our morale is, you will take a different amount of those out each turn. So typically, I think it's always 3, but there could be a mission that changes that. We'll just have to read the text on the mission that comes out. But I'll explain how exactly that works during the upkeep phase. So we'll just keep these guys right here. But you will take your blue Maquis action cube and stick it on this card over here in the morale where it says start. So that will go there. Much like the Maquis, we're going to leave our soldiers here, but we are going to take the red cube, and you'll see that you have a soldier area, and right here it says start for 0, because we're not going to start with any soldiers out on the board. The action cubes are just going to stay in a pile. You'll see as we do some of the missions, you'll use these to put them out on the board and mark that you've done certain things so you can keep track of what's going on. You have your resources up here. You could just dump them in a pile, but I went ahead and separated them out. So I'm going to go through real quickly what each of them are. So you've got money, you have food, you have intel, you have medicine, you have explosives, you have poison, you have fake or false IDs. Then you also have weapons here, and then there is 4 anti-aircraft tokens. I think they are only used when the mission calls for them, so you won't typically need them every game, but I threw them out here so you could see them. Up here in the top right hand corner, you'll see 9 locations. So you'll notice that these fit into these spots that are cut out on the board. And these are 9 different rooms you can build as you play. So you just keep those face up so you can see what's available and close to the board. Lastly, down here we have this deck of cards that say patrol on them. There's 10 of them. We've just shuffled them up. And this is going to control the Maquis and tell us where they go on the board. So the last thing you have in the box, which I do not have laid out here just yet, are the mission cards. So I want to show you there's a couple different difficulties. So the mission cards, the backs look like this. The front has a lot of text, and we'll go over this in detail in a second. But there's these 2 that have no stars. They're the easiest missions. These are the 2 that we will play with. But just so you can see, there's also 1-star missions. So I think there's 5 of those. So you see the 1-star there. Get on the back or the front, however you want to look at it. It has all the text and what you need to do to complete the mission. There is numerous 2-star missions, which are a little harder, might have a little more complex activities you got to do. And then there are 4 large format 3-star cards here. So depending on the difficulty, you can shuffle them up however you want to. For our playthrough here, we're going to again use these 2 easiest ones, and you'll see that the bottom of the mission card here has this little white line that looks a lot like these roads. And it's because they're going to actually go up here and right here, because the mission cards don't only tell you what you have to do to complete the mission, but they also act as locations. You typically have to get a worker there to do something or to take something. So these that we're starting with, I'll read off the text when we get started in the official playthrough, and you'll understand more there. Lastly, you get a little info card here that just reminds you what all the different icons on the board and the cards mean. So at that point, you are ready to get started. In the previous chapter, we set the game up. So now we're going to go through the rules explanation and play a couple rounds so you can see how the game actually works. Now this game is going to be played in rounds or days, and there is a day tracker over here that is going to work its way down, and when it gets to the end, the game is over and you have lost if you're not completed the missions. You'll see that there are a couple orange spaces here. That's going to impact your morale, which you keep track of on this card, and we'll talk about that a little more during the upkeep phase. So each day there are 3 phases. So we will work through one day, and I'll explain each phase as we go. So you start out with the placement phase. And the placement phase, the first part of it is going to determine how many of the Maquis guys are going to come out onto the board. So the way you do that is you're going to take the morale card, and if you look under where your cube is, you'll see that there are a set of red numbers. So it's currently at 3. So we'll put that back over here. We're going to keep in mind 3. You're going to compare that to however many active workers you have available, which is 3. So they're equal this turn, but they might not be in the future days. So you're going to take whatever the largest number is, and that's how many of the sympathizers you're going to put out. So for this turn, we're going to put out 3. So we can just take them, put them over there in a nice little pile. Now as the morale goes down, the red number goes up, so that it's possible that you get 4 or 5 of these people coming out onto the board. Conversely, you could take your morale up 1 notch, and if you only have, say, 1 or 2 workers, then you might only be putting 2 of these out on the board. So once you've determined how many of the Maquis are coming out onto the board, then it's time to place both your resistant workers and the blue opponents. So you're going to take turns back and forth, and there's a couple rules to keep in mind as far as when you place workers. So the biggest thing is that the workers can only take up 1 room, or 1 per worker per room. So you can't take 2 of your guys and stick them on the grocer to try to get 2 food. It's got to be 1 per space. The other thing, and it's not necessarily a rule, but something that you should keep in mind, is that during the upkeep phase, you have to make sure that your workers have an escape route, which is basically a clean route back to the safe house where none of these guys are in their way. If they are in the way, then that worker possibly gets arrested, and which means they're removed from the game. There are ways to mitigate that, and we will discuss that during the action phase, but just know when we're placing workers out there, we might not want to treat this exactly like a normal worker placement where we're just trying to say, well, I need this, this, and this, so I'll put them there. We want to say, well, I need this, but I also need to make sure all my workers at this point get back. Now, there's sometimes you might need to sacrifice a worker depending on what you're trying to accomplish, but for the most part, definitely here early in the game, we're going to want to keep a clear path. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take one of our workers and put them right here on the Pont Levique. And you'll notice that the safe house only has these 2 roads coming back to it. So you really need to make sure one of these spots is got one of your guys on it, because if not, there's a possibility that they both get blocked and then you're going to get arrested pretty quickly. So once we've taken our turn, then it's time to place one of them, and what we're going to, sorry, hit the tripod there. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the top patrol cart and flip it over. And you'll see a couple options here. And we're going to just work our way down. So we're going to check the first spot, radio B. If there's nobody there, either a worker, a soldier, or a milice, if it's empty, that's where we're going to put the blue worker. If it is got somebody currently on there, we work our way down to the next space. And if that is not empty, we work our way down to the third space. Now, if all three are filled with people, then we are going to cause some arrests to happen, but we'll look at that shortly. So for right now, we're going to look at radio B, which is up here in the top right hand corner, and there's nobody there, so we'll take our first worker, our first milice, and put him there. So at this point, this spot is now blocked. I cannot put a worker there, so we will move on to our turn. So I'll take this guy and I'll put him up here with the doctor because I want that medicine, but we'll discuss that during the action phase. The placement phase continues, so here we go. So radio A is the first one, and radio A is over here on the west side of the map. So we'll put that there. So now radio A is blocked. And so I have my last guy here to deal with. So I'll actually put him at the grocer because if I can get some food, that will allow me to recruit some more workers later on. So this last spot, so here we've got radio B. Radio B already has somebody on it, so we will skip that. And then Rue Barda is empty, so we'll place that there. So that was the first phase, which is the placement phase. Now the action phase takes place, and what we will do is we're going to basically take the action that is on each spot. So I'll work through our options as far as the actions go, and then I'll quickly discuss kind of what's going on with the rest of the board. So here we have a food emblem. So this guy is going to get a food that he is going to take back to the safe house if he makes it. Up here we have medicine. So this guy is going to take a medicine back to the safe house if he makes it, and this guy has nothing. So that is going to be there. We are going to do something with that spot here shortly that has to do with the mission that we have, but we'll put that off for a second. So let's look at some of the other actions on the board quickly. So you'll see down here next to the safe house, you have the cafe. You can turn in one food to recruit one worker. So you've got these other two guys that you can recruit. You also have these fields, which are going to come into play when you go to the radio sections and allow you to pick up some extra resources. We already went over the grocer. So at the black market, you'll see the slash. So that means you can either pay a medicine or you can pay a food, and in return you get a money, but you also lose a morale. So there's a little emblem there that lets you know that you'll lose a morale. At radio B or radio A, you've got a choice. You can either take an intel, which is the little blue backed paperwork, or you can use this parachute, which is, I think they call it an airdrop. And what the airdrop does is you can add to an empty field a couple different things. You can add one money, you can add one weapon, or you can add 3 food. So what would happen is you would use the airdrop, you would place one of those options on one of the fields that are empty, and then on your next turn you could move a worker to the field to collect those things. The poor district is a little bit like the black market, but this allows you to turn in one food and one medicine instead of or, and you get to raise your morale 1 notch. And then the fence up here allows you to trade in 1 money for a weapon. Lastly, you will see there are spots that say spare room, and they have 2 money and this key. If you place someone there, The action you take is to turn in 2 money, and then you can choose any of these 9 spare rooms and place them in there, and that becomes a new location that you can use. Most of these locations have the same type of emblem, so we won't go over them too in depth, but you'll see that like this one allows you to trade a medicine in for an explosive. So sometimes you need an explosive for the mission, so you'll have to build those spare rooms where applicable. We're going to make sure that each worker can get back to the safe house. If they can, they're going to carry their little good with them or carry out their resource. So this Pont Levique, he can go straight there. This guy can get there because no one's blocking his way. We now get this food. And the doctor over here can get down to the safe house with his medicine. So everyone was easily able to get back to the safe house, no problems. Now, if, and let's just pretend that we had something like that, and this guy was at the doctor, he cannot get back to the safe house. If he goes this way, he's blocked because he could go all the way around, and he can't go this way. So at this point, when he got to here, he would lose his medicine and he would be arrested, which means he's taken out of the game forever. Now, I will mention there is a little point of contention here with how this works exactly, and I cannot really find clarification in the rule book, and I even checked Board Game Geek, and it seems like there's multiple ways to handle this. The way I've been playing it is that this worker and this Maquis leave the board for the moment. The worker leaves forever, but the Maquis has to actually go to the police station. And the reason why I bring that up is because if you had a situation like this, where you can't get back that way, you can't get back this way, I've been playing it as if one of these guys gets arrested, and since he's at the police station, this guy could now go back there. I don't know exactly if that's how you played. Some people on Board Game Geek have stated, no, this person just goes there and gets arrested, and now this guy has to either go to one of those spots and get arrested. I've played both ways. That way's pretty punishing. So thematically, I like it the other way. The other point of contention about this is whether or not this can be used, or if it has to come back to the safe house and then go back out. So by that, what I mean is, say you had something like this happen, and his action is that he gets the medicine. So he gets the medicine, and then his action is to turn a medicine in for a money and a morale loss. Can we go ahead and trade this in for the money because we've got it? I've been playing as if that is a no. This guy has to actually bring it back to the safe house, and then on a later turn, he could take that medicine to the black market. Again, it seems like people are playing it both ways. I like playing it that way because of thematically that makes sense to me, that you have to get the food back or the medicine or whatever it is, and then it goes back out. Thematically, there's no real way this guy here can get the medicine to this guy over here. That doesn't make much sense to me, but that's just how I've been playing. Let's talk about getting arrested. So you have some ways to mitigate this. So if this guy went there and he got arrested there, he's got two options. So if he has a weapon, which is this, you can technically shoot the Maquis. You can only perform this action once per day, so you can't just wander around shooting all sorts of guys. You have to think about this being you're trying to be sneaky, and this is really a last resort. But if you shoot the Maquis, the Maquis is removed from the game, but there is a penalty and you have to increase the soldier track by 1. And then the Maquis are replaced by soldiers on future days. You also decrease a morale. So if you were to shoot this guy, you have to move this up and move this down. And then you've got these soldiers that are going to start coming out. And the soldiers cannot be shot. They cannot be mitigated as far as how they arrest you. They're going to just arrest you. So that's going to add some complications to the game. The other way you can mitigate it is if you have false or fake IDs, you can turn this in and basically get to bypass that guy. But you lose this and the Maquis stays out there, but that is a way to get past them. Though I will mention that to get the false IDs, you do need this forger room and the money to go with it. So it's not all that simple to just boom, grab up the false ID and go. All right, now we are actually ready to talk about the upkeep phase, which I've mentioned a few times now. But at that point, we're going to remove, so all your guys would be at the safe house. You're going to take all those Maquis guys, put them back where they belong. So you've got the board back like this. You're going to move the day up 1. If you move it onto an orange space, then you're going to move your morale down 1. You'll notice that this last orange spot says fail, so if your morale ever gets that low, you automatically lose. So you do have to keep track of the morale as you're going. And if the day marker moves to the very last day, which is down here, and you've not completed your missions, you lose there as well. The other way to lose is if all of your guys that are active get arrested and leave the game. So that is basically the actions. That is a quick look at how to play. So I'm going to put these back over here. So let's shuffle these up again and let's talk about these 2 missions and just play a couple rounds so you see exactly how this might work. So I'm going to read you the mission, but I will put it up on the screen so you can see it. So for this one, this is called the Maquis Parade Day. So you have to deliver 1 weapon, which are the little guns. You have to deliver 1 weapon to the Rue Baradat on a parade day, and it tells you which the parade days are, but they happen to coincide with all the orange days over here, so that's an easy way to remember it. Once you deliver the weapon, the worker is arrested, so that worker is going to leave the game, and you do get to increase your morale by 1. So that is how you complete it, but there is a note that says before this mission is completed, the road between the Rue Baradat and the fence is blocked on parade days. So what I would do is just take something like a soldier and put that there so we know that that is always blocked until we complete this mission. And you'll see that there is the gun emblem to let you know that you have to get a worker up there and place a gun. All right, the other one is the officer's mansion. So you need to place a worker on Rue Baradat, Pont l'Evêque, and Pont du Nord to write anti-fascist graffiti. And you're going to place one of the yellow markers during the action phase to track which ones you have used the graffiti on. And once all 3 locations are tagged, you've got to get a worker to this location to complete it. Now, one thing I don't think I covered in the last little part is there's one last emblem that you'll see on a lot of the mission cards, but they are also on some of these cards. That little shield, orange shield with the white star, that means that even if the worker that was there is getting going to get arrested on its way back, you still take the action. So if the worker went here after all 3 spots are tagged with the graffiti, but it can't get back because this emblem is here, that is okay. Unlike the doctor, where it doesn't have that emblem, the medicine would not make its way back. All right, so we've got our cubes back where we wanted them. We got our 3 guys here. We got the 2 by the cafe. So we're going to start out with our 3 Maquis, put them there, and let's see. So one of our spots that we want to tag is the Pont Levique, which is right here. So let's just go and throw one guy there. We'll look at this. So you'll see that this is Pont Levique, and at that point we can't put a worker there because they already have one of our guys here, and so Pont du Nord is the next one. So we'll put that there. Now I did mention earlier that if all 3 of these are covered, then there is an arrest that happens. So we're going to play a few rounds and see if it happens naturally. If it doesn't, I'll fake one at the end and show you how that works. So we'll put out this guy. So at some point I need a gun. Right now, really the only way to get a weapon is to, well, we can use an airdrop. So we would have to use a radio, or we can eventually get a money and turn it in for a gun up there. So if we put someone on the radio, we do run the risk of a Maquis going to the doctor and blocking his way back, but what the heck, let's just try it. So we'll drop that guy on radio A. We'll flip another one of these. All right, so Pont Levique is covered. The black market is not, but you'll see if it was, then we would have had to put a guy on the doctor, and that would have really screwed up my plan. So we'll put him there on the black market. And then lastly, we've got this guy. So just because it could happen, I'll go and place him at the doctor to make sure that we don't have a problem there. And then we'll look at this, and the very first option is the grocer, which is empty, so he'll go there. So now we'll take our actions. So remember, he has no action because of the spot, but it is on our mission card for him to tag that with the graffiti. So we will place the graffiti there, an action cube just to keep track of what's going on. So the doctor is going to get his medicine, which will stick with him. And then radio A, we either can use the intel, which is not super important for this time around, or you can use the airdrop. And remember, an airdrop allows you to add 1 money or 1 weapon or 3 food on an empty field. So we will take the weapon and we're going to drop it on that field right there. Now we can't get it this turn, we'll have to get it another turn, but that's fine. So now our guys are going to try to make it back to the safe house, which is pretty easy because of right like that. So we'll go boom, boom, boom. We'll clear all of these dudes, put them back in the pile. We'll take this down one day. It did not hit an orange one, so we don't have to lose any sort of morale. We have our medicine, and we are ready for the next day. So we got 3 workers here. Morale still at 3 as far as the red number. So we're still going to put out 3 of these guys. All right, so let's see. What else do we got to tag? We got to tag Pont du Nord, which is way up here. And we got to tag Rue Bardot, which is way over here. So it's kind of far. I need to get this gun. I also want to recruit another worker, I think, because I know when I finish this one, a guy's going to get arrested just as part of the mission. So let's do this. Let's put him at the grocer because I need a food to recruit somebody. I'll flip this over. So radio B. So we'll put that guy up there. We'll take this and let's see. Let's just go ahead and, man, I don't know. Let's put him there. Let's try to get him to tag that. I don't know if that's going to work out too well, but who cares? Let's see what happens. So radio B is filled up, Rhubarb dot is not, so he can go there. So that's helpful because he is way over there. And then our last guy here, I want to go and get the gun. I could probably wait a while to get the gun and put him there in the black market to ensure that escape route. But let's just play it risky since we're not going to play the whole thing. So he'll go on the field. And the next thing we get is radio A. So this guy's going to go there, which that worked out pretty well. So time for the actions. So let's see. This guy gets a food. Pont du Nord gets nothing except he does get to tag it with the graffiti. And this guy picks up his gun. Now everyone's got to make it back to the safe house. This guy comes back with the food. This guy comes back with the gun. And this guy comes back safely from doing his graffiti. We clear off all the patrols. We move this up a day. Still no morale gets down. So then we are ready to keep moving on. All right, so we still need to deliver the gun up here. We need to also tag that as well. So this is another point where the rules, I'm not exactly sure. Well, I take that back. The worker we put here is only going to be able to do one of those things because only each worker can do one action. So you can't like double that up because giving the gun is an action, and then because tagging the graffiti, it says to do that on the action, we're going to have to choose what's going to happen first. So what I think I will do is let's just go tag that. Actually, let's just get our extra worker for right now. So we do that. We'll flip this over. So at the fence, remember we still only have 3 of these guys. So put them out of the fence. Let's see. I feel like the doctor is not going to get picked. It doesn't get picked very often. So let's just go for it and try to put him out there at the Rhubarb dot. I'm probably pronouncing that all wrong. All right, so the fence is blocked, but the Pont du Nord is not. So we'll put him there. And then this guy is going to take the food and he's going to go to the cafe. And last but not least, this guy's going to go to the grocer. All right, so time to do the actions. So he will tag this. He will spend his food, so back over there, and he recruits another guy, and he does nothing. And so they all going to make it back to the safe house, which they do just fine. We're going to take these dudes away, put them over here, and move this day down. All right, so now we've hit an orange, which means the morale goes down 1 notch. So we're still going to compare, but now we have 4 available workers compared to red number of 3. So remember, you always want to use the highest number. So we're now going to put out 4 of these guys. All right, so we have tagged all 3 spots, but to complete this mission, we have to actually get a worker there and place him on that spot. Now, because of this, we do not have to actually have him make it back alive without being arrested. We also need to get a worker there and turn his gun in. He can also get arrested, so we pretty much got this thing locked down here. But let's just put him out, and then I also want to show you what happens if all these are covered up. So let's just put him out there on this one. Slip this over, so radio A. Let's put this guy. He'll go ahead and go up there to try to win that. Oh, I also made mention that you got to deliver the weapon here on a parade day, which parade day is these orange spots. So well, we're good there. You'll see that our deck is empty, so we're just going to flip the patrol deck over, and we're going to shuffle them up and place it back here. Flip that over. All right, so grocer. So let's go ahead and get a guy up here at the roo. He's going to take the gun because he needs to drop that off. We'll flip this over. Radio B. And this guy doesn't really care where he's going to go because we basically have it won, but let's just stick him at the doctor. And this last guy we're going to flip over. And so this actually worked out pretty well because we're going to see what happens during an arrest this way. So radio A, he can't go there because there's already someone there. Rue Baradot, he can't go there because our worker's there. The grocer, he can't go there because there's a grocer there. You're now going to go back to the top and you're going to work the way down. And any of these locations that have your worker, he's going to arrest it. So radio A had this guy, so that's not going to work. Rue Baradot does have our guy. So we're going to put him there, and he's actually going to arrest this dude. So he's out of the game, and we lost our gun. So it's still tagged from the other mission, but we did lose a guy there. We lost our gun that we worked through. That's kind of horrible. Sorry, I think I placed, this guy should be here. I think I grabbed him by accident. So we still do the actions. This goes there. This guy actually can complete this mission, so we'll stick that there to show that that's done. And then can everyone make it back to the safe house? He can, and he can even make it down here. So we would clear these out, put that down there, and we'd move on. So you'll see that we've completed one mission, but we still now have to work on this. We only have this many turns in order to go back and get the gun from somewhere and then get a worker up there to deliver it on a parade day. So hopefully that explains and gives you enough gameplay there to see how this game works. When my friend first let me borrow it, he really raved about it, and I trust his opinion. But the box is tiny, and I wasn't exactly sure how something this small, especially solo, was going to be handled. But honestly, it's been really great. You can knock a game out in 20 minutes. If that. Sometimes you lose a lot faster. I've won probably about half of the games I've played, but I really like the different missions, like the different things you got to do during them. They're pretty varied. It's not just, oh, grab an explosive and go there. Sometimes you got to visit a bunch of locations and then flip a card here, and then it tells you where an informant is, and you got to go to that spot. Sometimes you've got to get intel and put a worker in the Nazi headquarters with the intel, and then the worker stays there. So you haven't exactly lost him. He's just not usable, but he does allow you to flip this over at the beginning of each placement phase and at least view the card before you do it. So I like how that thematically is, tied into the intel and you as a player are getting intel. So that's pretty cool. Like I said before, it can be a little vicious and you can lose pretty quickly. But again, thematically, that's ties right in. I mean, you really feel like the decisions you're making. I mean, you see right there, even on the easiest one, I took a risk and it didn't work out for me. So I like that tension. So I really am impressed with this. I think the only caveat I would say is there are some rule clarifications that I think need to be made, and possibly I'm missing them, but when I look it up online, there seems to be a few things that people aren't exactly agreeing on as far as how to play. So, but if that's the only downside, I think it's a great game, and hopefully you will enjoy it too. So don't forget to check out our website at boardgamebreakdown.com. We got a written review up of Maquis as well as other reviews. We're an Amazon affiliate partner, so if you see something there you want to purchase, click the link on our site and you can still purchase it through Amazon. No extra money to you, but it helps get us a little bit of a commission to keep making videos. Also check us out on Instagram at board.game.breakdown. Leave us a comment, hit us up if you have any thoughts or questions. Again, thank you for watching.